What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 5 sleepers and studs.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'll cover the top DraftKings and FanDuel Week 5 DFS strategy and research. Draft Dashboard is fully updated with every target count and rush attempt, so we've been using the position optimizer throughout the week to identify some of the top DFS plays for NFL, DraftKings, and FanDuel. And if you stay to the very end after all my picks and after I show you the Draft Dashboard tools, I'll give you my super secret sleeper pick that no one's talking about. Okay guys, DFS Week 5 at the quarterback position. At the top, I like Tom Brady from the New England Patriots playing the Washington Redskins, who have the third worst defense overall, and they give up the fourth most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. I feel like I pick Tom Brady every single week, but I didn't pick him last week. He was facing a tough Buffalo defense, and I just sensed that something wasn't right. But Tom Brady is averaging 20.3 fantasy points per game on the season. He's going to be about 8% owned. He's projected to get 18.4 fantasy points here in Week 5. He's $6,500 DraftKings salary and $1,100 more on FanDuel. So I like Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson, the guys that are above him, but for a little bit lower ownership, I love the matchup that Tom Brady has here versus the Washington Redskins. Tom Brady had an awful game last game, 5 fantasy points, and now he's in a get-right spot versus the Washington Redskins. Vegas thinks there's going to be 42.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Patriots favored by 15. So they're going to do the bulk of the scoring, and I think it's going to come through the air. I think it's going to be Tom Brady's revenge on the Washington Redskins. So I like Tom Brady here versus the Washington Redskins. Okay, moving down in salary. I like Kirk Cousins from the Minnesota Vikings playing the New York Giants, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins has played really bad so far this season. He's only averaged 11.8 fantasy points per game on the season. He only scored 8 fantasy points last week. He's only going to be about 2% owned, so super low ownership. He's projected at 16 fantasy points here in Week 5, and he's only $5,300 DraftKings salary and $1,500 more on FanDuel. He's got a great matchup versus a weak New York Giants passing defense, and Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen are going to be on a mission. They want to get right from a bad start to the season, and this is the perfect matchup to do it in. Vegas thinks there's going to be 43.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Vikings favored by 5. So I like Kirk Cousins here versus the New York Giants.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won,
and then we'll send you $100 PayPal.
So it's that easy,
and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video.
So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay guys, FanDuel and DraftKings Week 5 running back stud is Dalvin Cook from the Minnesota Vikings playing the New York Giants, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 15th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Dalvin Cook has scored 26.6 fantasy points per game on the season. He's averaging 17.8 rush attempts per game and 4.5 pass targets per game. So he's well over the 20 touches per game mark. He's going to be about 20% owned. He's on the field for 70% of the snaps, and he touches the ball 52% of that time. He's projected at 20.5 fantasy points here in Week 5. He's $8,400 DraftKings salary and $200 less on FanDuel. So I love that FanDuel price. This guy's yet to disappoint. He's got a great matchup here versus the Giants. So I like Dalvin Cook here versus the New York Giants. Okay, moving way down in salary, I like Myles Sanders from the Philadelphia Eagles playing the New York Jets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Now, Myles Sanders has only averaged 7.8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 14 fantasy points 2 games ago, 11.3 rush attempts per game on the season, and 2.5 pass targets per game. He's a running back that can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he's only going to be 2% owned. He's on the field for 40% of the snaps, and he touches the ball 46% of the time. He's projected at 11.1 fantasy points here in Week 5, and he's only $4,500 DraftKings salary and $1,500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 44 points scored in this game, and they got the Philadelphia Eagles favored by 13.5. So this could be a run-the-ball game script that favors Myles Sanders. It's a home game, a great matchup, so I like Myles Sanders here versus the New York Jets. Okay, FanDuel and DraftKings, Week 5, wide receiver position. I like Chris Godwin from the Tampa Bay Bucks playing the New Orleans Saints, who have the 10th worst defense overall, and they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Chris Godwin has scored 23.7 fantasy points per game on the season in an average of 8.3 pass targets per game. He exploded for 44 fantasy points last week off of 14 pass targets. Mike Evans was banged up in that matchup, and Chris Godwin has one of the best cornerback wide receiver matchups in football this week. He's going to be about 12% owned, on the field for 94% of the snaps. He touches the ball 12% of that time. He's projected at 17.6 fantasy points here in Week 5. He's $6,900 DraftKings salary and $900 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46 points scored in this game, and they have the Saints favored by 2.5. So it could be a passing game script for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So I like Chris Godwin here versus the New Orleans Saints.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL, MLB is still going, NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, moving down in salary to a guy that's off almost everyone's radar. I like Deante Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Baltimore Ravens, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Deante Johnson has averaged 10.4 fantasy points per game on the season in an average of 5.3 pass targets per game. He scored 19 fantasy points last week, 15 the week before that, so he's on a roll. He's only going to be about 1% owned. He's on the field for 55% of the snaps and touches the ball 17% of that time. He's projected at 10.5 fantasy points here in Week 5. He's $4,400 DraftKings salary and $600 more on FanDuel. So a low salary player that's got 20-point upside. Vegas thinks there's going to be 44.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Ravens favored by 3. So it could be a passing game script for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a home game, so I like Deante Johnson here versus the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, DFS Week 5, tight end position. I like Darren Waller from the Oakland Raiders playing the Chicago Bears, who have the 3rd best defense overall, but they're only middle of the pack defending opposing tight ends. Darren Waller has averaged 17.2 fantasy points per game on the season, and he's getting 9.3 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 9% owned,
He's on the field for 94% of the snaps, and he touches the ball 16% of that time. Monster usage numbers for Darren Waller, who's projected at 12.1 fantasy points here in Week 5. He's $5,000 DraftKings salary and $1,400 more on FanDuel. His salaries come down because of the bad matchup with a good Chicago Bears defense. The Bears are favored by 5 in this game, so Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders are going to need to be passing the ball. Khalil Mack is going to be putting pressure onto Derek Carr, and he may need to dump it off to Darren Waller 10 to 12 times in this game. So despite the bad matchup, I like that this is a home game for Oakland, and I think Carr and Waller connect on quite a few pass attempts. So I like Darren Waller here versus the Chicago Bears. Okay, moving down in salary, I like Jimmy Graham from the Green Bay Packers playing the Dallas Cowboys, who have the 5th best defense overall, but they give up the 13th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Jimmy Graham has averaged 7.5 fantasy points per game on the season. He's only getting an average of 4 pass targets per game, but he had 9 pass targets last game for 18 fantasy points. He's only going to be about 2% owned. He's on the field for 62% of the snaps and touches the ball 9% of that time. He's projected at 8.9 fantasy points here in Week 5. He's $4,300 DraftKings salary and $1,200 more on FanDuel. So this is a punt play here. It's a low ownership tight end play who's got some upside. You're going to need more than 5 pass targets for Jimmy Graham to return value here, but the activity that he showed last game is encouraging. So I'm going to give him a shot. I saw some chemistry sparking there. If you've got the salary, just pay out for Darren Waller, but if you're looking for a sleeper play here at the tight end position, Jimmy Graham's got that 20-point upside. We saw it last week. So I like Jimmy Graham as a low-owned punt play here versus the Dallas Cowboys.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. You've unlocked the bonus content.
Okay, my super secret sleeper pick for NFL Week 5 is Robbie Anderson from the New York Jets playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have the 3rd worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points versus opposing wide receivers. Robbie Anderson has scored 7.2 fantasy points per game on the season in an average of 6 targets per game. He's only going to be about 3% owned, and he's on the field for 98% of the snaps, and he touches the ball 10% of that time. He's projected at 10.5 fantasy points here in Week 5. He's only $4,500 DraftKings salary and $1,000 more on FanDuel. The Philadelphia Eagles are favored by 13.5 points in this game, and Robbie Anderson's got a great matchup. So it's going to be a passing game script as the Jets look to come from behind. So I'm hoping Robbie Anderson can catch one of those long bombs in the end zone and blow up your lineup at low ownership. So I like Robbie Anderson here versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.